Hey, so last week I got a phone call that was very obviously spam. Soch is 3-4 on my birthday. How old am I? 20. This is a 22-year-old. I was 20 years old in the BC, otherwise known as before COVID, otherwise known as the last time that time was a meaningful concept. As in, before COVID, I was 20 years old, and today I'm lost in time. Originally, I was going to say that COVID has made life feel like it's just dragging by, which I still think is true. But it's more than that. As I record this video, it's Saturday, February 12th, 2022. However, it feels like February 1st was yesterday. The way that I see it is that the component pieces of a week, the days, are feeling as long as they ever have. However, the weeks themselves are feeling short, which doesn't actually make any sense. If the component piece is long, then the whole should also be long. I'm tired of feeling like life is zipping by without me experiencing any of it, and then when I look for solutions, the number one thing I get is to take a different route to work every day to add some variety to my life. This is not effective because a lot of people, in fact, I would argue the people who are experiencing this most, don't have a drive to work. But even if you do have a commute to work, while this might be somewhat beneficial, it's mostly just a band-aid problem that'll probably have the added consequence of making you late to work. How do we actually fix the problem of life feeling like it's passing us by? Many people have written about the idea that the reason why life feels like it's speeding up as you're getting older is because every subsequent year is a smaller percentage of your life. Well, when you're 10 years old, another year is 10%. But when you're 50, another year is only 2%. This common explanation is known as proportion theory, and Michael Stevens of Vsauce handled it really well on his video on the illusions of time. I'll link it below. In the video, he points out that proportionality mainly impacts us over longer periods of times, like years or even decades. This means that this is probably not the thing that's changing our perception of time during COVID, and hopefully won't be. My thinking was that during COVID, a lot of people came of an age where things should be speeding up, their mid to late 20s, and though looking at the data, I no longer have much reason to believe it. But I think that a better explanation of what's currently going on might be novelty, or the lack thereof. I think most people would say that 2020 has been a more eventful year than 2019. Despite that, 2020 has been dragging on for decades. When you do something new, something novel, your brain takes more time to process that. This is the place where I think the take a different path to work thing really comes in. Even if two distances are the same length, the one that you are used to driving is going to feel much shorter than the one that's brand new to you. If you go on a first date with someone new, obviously as it's a first date, then it's going to feel like it takes a longer period of time than it would if you went on a date with someone you had been seeing for years. The wait at a restaurant that you are unfamiliar with feels like it takes longer. But this still doesn't really help. Driving that different path to work every day is probably not something that you are going to remember a year or maybe even a month from now. What it is that you really need isn't just novelty or to somehow de-age yourself. The solution to the problem of your life feeling like it's slipping away from you, as far as I can tell, is to make the days different and to make those differences meaningful. Some of you who are very familiar with this show might realize that we are in a different place. This is not my bedroom. However, when this show was primarily recorded in my bedroom, I had a tremendous problem, which is that because I lived and slept and worked and ate pretty much all within about 400 square feet, All of the days felt like they were one thing. There were times, like 3 to 4 day stretches, where I really didn't even have to leave that room. Because your brain just loves efficiency, when it's creating the memory of what you've done throughout the days and the weeks, it can consolidate 4 things that seem incredibly similar into just one memory. This is one of the reasons why, despite the fact that I've only lived here for a week, I can't tell you much about my old apartment because everything just seems samey. That is with the exception of my ridiculous neighbor, which brings me to this video's sponsor, Patreon. More specifically, this video is sponsored by my patrons on Patreon. Did you know that I had to leave my last apartment in the middle of the lease? This was both inconvenient and very expensive. My upstairs neighbor was so loud so often that you would frequently see complete outfit changes, lighting differences, and sound differences in the middle of videos. This would happen because at first someone was stomping and later hitting the floor with a hammer in the middle of my recording process, approximately every 30 minutes. Despite that happening, I now live in a different place without that happening, primarily due to my patrons over on Patreon. If you like my videos and you're financially able, consider going to patreon.com/CuriousTangents and supporting for as little as $1.50. Or you could just share this video. It's the #1 way to tell YouTube that this is worth watching. So changing your car ride probably won't have a meaningful impact on how you're perceiving time. But going on that date actually might. Dating could actually have a lasting impact because it's a meaningful deviation from the norm, but that primarily helps single people. Contrary to popular belief, you don't need to do anything special or expensive to contribute to a local charity or volunteer. Your local town or city almost certainly has a Big Brothers Big Sisters and a kid who would think that you're pretty great, or even just decent. I've learned to put my standards pretty low in these past few years, and it's been fantastic. Just show up and be better than nothing. In fact, when I started making this video, my goal was just do slightly better than not uploading, and here we are. Bye.